WGLNA Gold League Season 6 qualifiers. I'm your host, Christian Toma. Next to me is David Williams. Make sure to check us out on Facebook and YouTube, /WGLNA. And don't forget to follow us on Twitter, @WGLNA.
Speaking of Twitter, I want to remind everybody, or if you're just tuning in, we do have a question of the day, and the question is, what is your favorite tank in the 754 format? So head over to Twitter and let us know what you think.
Absolutely. Now, David, we just got out of our first match of the night, High Voltage versus TBD. High Voltage taking it 5-2. We saw an amazing just dedication and some amazing plays from both those teams. Your predictions have stood up so far. High Voltage doing great. Up next, we have WGLNA versus Game Over. Now, as I understand it, you know a little bit about Game Over, so why don't you walk me through their team setup and kind of their history?
So Game Over is a classic team from the league. They have many veterans on that team. They're from Brazil, most of them. And they've been playing in WGLNA for quite a while. If I remember correctly, since Season 1. Now, I'm not 100% sure if they dipped out and came back at any point in time. But what is important to note is they're actually only part of the previous Game Over. So Game Over last season split into two different teams. One who is no longer in the qualifier, and these who remain. So I'm interested to see how much they've improved or suffered due to that change. But what's really interesting to me is I know almost nothing about WGLNA.
Oh, sure.
I checked out the roster. Maybe I've had my head buried in the sand or something, but I don't recognize any of these people yet. Yet they made it all the way to the finals.
Yeah.
So the losers bracket finals.
Right.
But from what I saw, the only team that they lost to before they got here was TBD.
Whoa.
And then everybody else they 5-0'd, including, I believe, River of Blood and some other teams that we've seen before. So I'm interested to see who these people are. Perhaps they are veterans and they've changed their names. Perhaps it's just completely slipping my mind. Whoa. Who knows? But this should be an interesting match.
That's really exciting because this, like I said, was my match that I was most excited to watch. It's going to be whoever loses this is going to be out. So there's a lot of pressure riding on these two teams to be so close. Now they just have to do one more. They just have to win one more match to guarantee their spot in this Gold League coming up. As someone who's played before professionally, have you ever been in a situation where it's now or never, basically? And in that situation, how much pressure is riding on your shoulders?
Yeah, I've definitely been in a lot of situations where you either win or you go home empty-handed or with a lot less. And I've been on both ends of that. Sometimes we've come out ahead and sometimes not so much, as many of you watching probably remember both of those things. The stakes in this instance, I'm not sure I've ever had this much pressure, though. Usually we've got a little bit of an advantage or a little bit of wiggle room, or we're already in the playoffs or something, but this is the qualifiers to even make it in the league.
Right.
And you have to wait quite a while before you get another chance. So this is more pressure than I'm ever used to dealing with, for sure.
Well, now, and like you said, Game Over being a team that's split in half, but they have some veterans on their team. Being familiar with this before, being comfortable with this setup, being in and out of this, where Ding, like you're saying, you're not recognizing if they are. Is that a huge advantage that Game Over has over Ding, basically being here, knowing what to expect, or is that kind of an even playing field in this match?
That definitely goes both ways. For me personally, whenever we were planning strategically or when I was playing, I would so much rather play against a team that I know that has been around for a while than just some people who show up. Because you don't know anything. You don't know if they're crazy and they're going to do things that just don't make sense to you, which sometimes makes sense in its own way. I'd rather fight the enemy I know than the enemy I don't, is what it comes down to for that.
Wow. So basically, Game Over, taking that knowledge that they know and maybe having to throw it out the window and be very flexible in each of these matchups, which could be a huge advantage for Team Ding. Now, on the other hand, Team Ding, maybe watching these professional players, watching these veterans, is that an advantage they might have over Game Over because they were able to see how they play? Definitely.
The more time you have to study your opponent, the better it's going to be for you. And right now, between these two teams, I would definitely feel more stress as Game Over than I would as WGLNA. But that's personal. You never know how a team's going to handle it, like we talked about before.
Absolutely. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we are into our second matchup of the evening, WGLNA versus Game Over. David, why don't you take us into those lineups?
Coming out for Game Over, we have one 5100, three IS-3s, a waffle, like you wanted, and an AMX 1390, and finally a T37. Over there for WGLNA, whoa, we only have 6 players. 2 5100s, an IS-3, 2 T-54 lightweights, and a T-37. That is not a good situation to be in.
Absolutely. Now, what has happened for Game Over? Why would they only have 6 players they have brought to this matchup?
It is not Game Over that only brought 6. It is actually Ding NA. Our UI appears to be backwards. Game Over is over there actually in the red, and they are the ones attacking, while Ding NA is on defense.
I see. So this is going to be a little confusing. We apologize, ladies and gentlemen, for that. These names might get a little mixed up. But we have Ganondorf taking that cap right off the base, getting pressure for Ding NA to come and meet them in this front Ruinberg. It seems as if we have a lot of people on that 0 line for Ding NA. What do you think the response is going to be to get them over to stop this cap?
This is actually a very classic thing for Ding NA. They're just clearing out the 9-0 to make sure nobody's there. This frees up all of their tanks to actually come back and defend. They're not under any real pressure right now. It's only 1 tank on cap, and they know it, and they're actually just setting up and getting ready to reset. Where Gandorfo is very, very predictable, so that it looks like they're actually trying to buy some time to flank around behind Game Over with Romstar and Mr. Gordon Freeman.
Absolutely. Gandalf, though, taking some damage, and that cap is getting reset, which is really good for Ding NA. But they're taking some Rom Sacred taking some damage, but Rom Sacred finds Gandorfo. Gandorfo going down quite early, which evens this matchup again 6-6, which is looking very good for Game Over on the, which is, as you're saying, the red side. They've decided to kind of maintain that cap pressure. As on the northern, we have a push happening right on this edge. The Dendy and BR Game Over on these 2 corners defending each other. David, what are we seeing as this cap goes down? Now it's a 6v6. The health, though, in a heavy favor for Game Over. Is this going to be a call to action for them to push, or are they going to kind of wait back for this cap to tick down until it really matters?
You know, honestly, Game Over is kind of a precarious situation. They know they are being flanked by 2 different people from Ding NA. Those 2, Mr. Gordon Freeman and Romstar, sitting up against a very hard place to attack. The fountain, as T-54s are very hard to shoot in that area. You basically have to just let it slide or let it go at their turret and hope it penetrates, but there's a lot of bounce potential there. Unfortunately for Ding NA, Game Over has taken better positions to defend from both sides. They're slowly building cap pressure, but at the same time, Ding NA doesn't really have to do anything about it. They know where Drac and Gandorfo are, and they're just biding their time and draining the clock while they reset. The big question is, can Game Over sneak something on the cap that they can't reset, which will prompt Ding NA to actually do something about this pressure that's being put on?
Well, there we go. Looks like a little damage taken from Drac Hero, but Orange takes down Veloxa just like that, and we have Ding. Looks like they're taking. Oh, that was the Ding that was lost. A little confusing with these colors being back and forth. Ramsey take some good damage too. The cap has been reset, so that's going to be an amazing opportunity for Ding NA just to sit back and let Game Over, have to go through the whole 90 seconds again. Some shots going out, amazing crossfire, all missing. But Hyatt takes Romstar down. Mr. Gordon and Romstar, the ones who were pushing in the back, have to back out. He's going back into that city. It looks like the cap though is ticking down. What are we looking at as far as Game Over in their heads with this back and forth on this cap?
That was actually a huge pickup for Game Over, picking up Romstar behind him, and just picking up Freeberg in his 5100. Game Over has solid cap pressure.
Absolutely.
They have 1 tank sitting behind Gandorfo's wreck, which is going to provide enough cover for them to start capping, and now they're pushing up on the corner, trying to make sure that Dendy can't come back. This is a strong position for Game Over.
Absolutely. You see right there, Mega My Hero just going to get on that cap, pushing it. 10 seconds left. We're going to have Ding. They need to respond, or Game Over is going to take this. 5 just on the cap. We're going to see if they can get the reset. But it looks like BR gets Rom Sacred, but the reset is not there. 2 seconds, 1 second. That's the cap for Game Over. Wait, it gets reset just in time. 1 second left, and it gets reset. An amazing save from Ding, but is it enough with just 2 members against 6? It's not going to be enough. The cap goes down. There it goes. Game Over with that first victory, and Ding NA not having what it took to come around that corner.
That was one of the strangest matches I've ever seen.
Chaos.
Quite frankly. I think if WGLNA had brought a full 7, which is always one of the most important parts, and perhaps they do,
right,
but they didn't actually, there are very strict rules about how quickly you have to ready up your tanks, and it's run by the admin. And if you don't get it in time, they'll start that match whether your guy is ready or not. So this could very well be, and I hope for their sake, and quite frankly, I know Game Over wouldn't agree with this, but I hope WGLNA is able to get their 7th person in, because that would have made a significant difference in the situation. But that was a very strong strategic play by Game Over. They were very slow and methodical about what they wanted to do. They paced themselves, and they really made WGLNA play the game they wanted to. Honestly, it's a very classic way to cap the North. Ding tried their best, and I'm not entirely sure about their response as a valid strategy, though.
Now, as WGLNA, I'm just having that first game. Like I said, this is the match where they need to win, or they're going to be out of the league upcoming. How frustrating must that be to not get that 7th tank in? And how will that lead into their detriment, almost like a handicap coming into this next matchup, or this next battle?
You know, there's not a whole lot you can do to compensate for a missing person.
Right. Yep.
I mean, we're talking like, in this format, at least 6 points.
Wow.
Is pretty much how it works.
Sure.
So that is a lot. That is a lot of tank that's missing. It's a lot of hit points, a lot of damage. Now, maybe, and this happens sometimes, you have a disconnect or somebody's computer crashes during loading and things like that. And in a lot of situations, it depends on the tournament. It depends on how far the game has progressed and whatnot. That player just can't rejoin. But I'm very interested to see if maybe he was showing up late, got caught in traffic, his boss just wouldn't let him off. Who knows? I really hope we can get a full 7, though. Yeah,
it would just be absolutely awful to see the 6v7 for the entire matches, because WGLNA, I mean, that's a hard, even if you are a new team that's just been absolutely clearing your way up to this point, that's a hard order to fill with only 6 players.
I definitely see a lot of potential in what they were doing. They're playing fairly well. The strategy wasn't all that far off from what it should be. I think there were a couple little tweaks that I myself wouldn't do, but I am not their captain.
Sure.
And there's definitely validity in almost anything you can do in this game. It's one of the things that I find to be one of the best parts about World of Tanks itself. Almost any strategy is valid. It just depends on whether your team is all running it together or not.
All right, well, ladies and gentlemen, we are ready for that second battle with WGLNA versus Game Over. David, what do we got for tanks?
Coming out for WGLNA, we have 2 5100s, 2 IS-3s, 2 T-54 lightweights, and a T-37. Ladies and gentlemen, we have all 7.
Hooray!
For Game Over, 1 5100, 3 IS-3s, a Waffle again, an AMX 1390, and a T-37. That is a very interesting setup. That Waffle is going to be a huge problem, honestly.
Now, when you see that tank destroyer being a huge problem, what do you mean by that? Is that because he'll be able to sit back there on the assault and get the picks when they're spotted? Because it looks like we have Game Over making this huge push from the city, all heading very indefinitely as a single group to this cap zone in the center east. What is Game Over's? What do you think Game Over's plan is here, attacking WGLNA like this?
So this is another way of they're basically putting on a clinic of how to play Ruinberg right now. You either do a northern cap pressure and just pelt anything that tries to stop you. They have to go to very predictable positions, or you force the offense, or the defense, sorry, to come out of that town in mid. And a Borsig, or a Waffle, or a Roomba, a Rheinmetall, whatever you want to call this thing, it is a tank of many names, that's for certain. With this beautiful 128 centimeter, or 12.8 centimeter gun, 128 millimeters, that is a lot of pain they can deliver. All they have to do is coax WGLNA to come out of cover and into anywhere that the Waffentreuer can shoot, and it will deliver some serious pain with serious penetration on them the instant they poke out. It's a great tank for supporting cap pressure.
Yeah, absolutely, but it seems like Rom Sacred has been caught out here. He's running straight down this line, taking some good damage down there, and Game Over Drac Hero goes down. The Dendy picking up that kill. This crossfire is amazing going for WGLNA, and we have another one. Rom Sacred takes BR Game Over right out of this match. Enrique Dante is taking tons of damage as well. He's going to be in some trouble. I hear the track. It's going, guys. He shoots back at Rom Sacred, who's just backed up in this corner. He's one shot away. There he goes. Romstar takes Enrique Dante down for Game Over, and this is looking amazing for WGLNA.
This is not a bad situation for WGLNA. They picked up 3 tanks right off the bat. That's a very strong opener. And quite frankly, it's nearly impossible for Game Over to come back from this, but they can definitely at least try and take some tanks with them.
Absolutely. Now, as you said, we have Game Over, who are the ones on the assault. WGLNA looks like they're going to be able to just sit back and let them push in. Super Destructor taking some damage, but Hike back there absolutely being dominated, trying to take cover in the city as Veloxa and Mr. Gordon Freeman coming on from behind. They are not in a pretty situation. They need something to happen. He comes out right in the open, taking tons of damage, absolutely out. Ramsar picks up that kill as well, and this is not looking good for Game Over.
Definitely not. I mean, I don't think we can emphasize this enough. This match is over. WGLNA is just cleaning it up.
Absolutely.
And we're going to be getting ready to see whether or not Game Over can recover from that severe of a loss that quickly.
WGLNA absolutely cleaned house with Game Over, having almost all of their tanks. Only one, I believe, went down on that side. We see, obviously, what they can do with the full team of 7 when it comes against Game Over.
I mean, I don't really know what else to say about that match. WGLNA, one of the more aggressive defenses I've seen. I think Game Over must have made a mistake in there that I didn't catch. Either that or WGLNA made a very quick read. They saw a couple tanks in the general position they wanted, and they got the right angles. There's definitely a lot of hit points taken, or a lot of hit points lost by Game Over really quickly, more than that should actually happen. That quickly. So either they stepped out of cover or made some sort of mistake that WGLNA exploited there. But that's about as bad as it gets trying to assault the South Cap.
Absolutely. Now, as we see WGLNA switching on this other side, do you think they're going to maintain that aggressiveness? Is that going to be something that's kind of their trademark, or are we going to see maybe a defensive slower play come out?
Honestly, I hope so. I mean, tracking their progress to the bracket, I saw a lot of 5-0s and 5-1s.
Wow.
And that, to me, screams one of two things. Either they're very methodical and they don't give up a single inch, or they're incredibly aggressive and the teams they play just go on tilt immediately and they just can't handle the kind of pressure that's coming at them. After what we saw in that last match, I mean, technically so far we've seen both. A little bit of methodology and then a lot of aggression in that last match. They definitely caught whatever they wanted, triggered off of it, and just slam Game Over in the face. So hopefully, I'm really excited to see what they bring on offense. I'm hoping we see more of the same, honestly.
Absolutely steamrolled Game Over. Now, is Game Over experiencing the full force of WGLNA in that battle? How do you possibly counteract that? Do you split your forces? Do you move as a single group? Do you wait back? Do you play passively and set a trap for them to come to you? What can Game Over do in this situation against such an aggressive team?
Fortunately, they're on Ruinberg. And Ruinberg, like I said before, it's not hard to defend, but it's also not easy to defend. Little mistakes add up very quickly. WGLNA didn't make any of those mistakes in the last map, but in the first match, they made several, and Game Over consistently exploited them. So if Game Over has practiced their defense enough, and they bring the right tanks, it's going to be extremely hard for WGLNA to be aggressive on them in any situation whatsoever.
All right, well, ladies and gentlemen, we are into this third battle of WGLNA versus Game Over. David, why don't you take us through those tank lineups?
WGLNA running 2 IS-3s, an AMX 1390, 3 T-54s, and a T-37. That is definitely an aggressive South Cap, if you ask me. Get into the city and prevent Game Over from getting there. That's going to be dicey. Game Over running a much more standard 2 AMX 5100s, 3 IS-3s, a T-54 lightweight, and a T-37. If they actually all meet at the same time, Game Over has so much firepower there. They're going to annihilate WGLNA. Record pace.
Absolutely, and we do see WGLNA moving, kind of splitting the forces here, but Game Over running as a single solid unit, just keeping Gandorfo back by himself in that upper north corner. Looks like they're going to meet up over here on this cap. Mr. Gordon Freeman runs right onto it to start that cap timer. Now, Game Over, knowing where WGLNA is, does this put them at a disadvantage? But right before I talk, Hotch is about to get caught out here. He has 4 members barreling down on him, taking absolutely insurmountable amounts of damage. This does not look good for him at all, and he goes down. The Dendi absolutely making quick work of this fight, but a battle has taken up north as they are spotted. Mr. Gordon Freeman takes some shots at Drac Hero. Shots being fired all over the place. The Dendi getting taken down terribly low. He does go down, ladies and gentlemen, finally going down there with shots back and forth all over the place. This is a hard battle to keep track of very, very long shots from both teams, but they're making amazing work of it. Two tanks down for both teams, it seems like. The Drac Hero getting dangerously low, shots coming across the way. Rom Sacred just 1 shot away. Drac Hero needs to find some cover. He's going to have a bit of a problem here.
That was not a good exchange for any team, honestly. Game Over's 2 5100s are down to 1 or 2 shots each. Roma scared, Romstar not at a particularly great amount of hit points for the T-54 lightweights, and they're relatively stuck. However, there's a lot of action going on in Delta Village. We should get to that as quickly as possible.
Yeah, absolutely. Super taking the kill there. Rama Sacred also going down, but this village is where they are taking their attention. 2 members on the cap here for DingNA, as we have Super Destructor just going to be sitting back, trying to find really anyone that they can. They need to come out and stop this, but with the cap being down, they are now the aggressors. Ganondorf looks like he's going to run around trying to find Freiberg and Mr. Gordon Freeman, as this village is kind of at a stalemate, and we see. What does Game Over have to do? Oh, Henrique getting absolutely low, gets dominated by Veloxa, and over on this corner we have Gandorfa going down by Freiberg. This is not looking good for Game Over at all. He's just 1 shot away. Mr. Gordon Freeman. Freiberg, though, is the one to find Gandorfo. This is absolutely atrocious for Game Over. DingNA, knowing that they have the advantage, looks like they're going to push into this village. Megminero, excuse me, needs to get out of there before he takes another shot. Rama Sacred moving up again, 1 shot, but he has that gun. It is 3-6 here for DingNA and Game Over. What does Game Over have to do to get into this fight?
Quite frankly, there is not a whole lot they can do to get into this fight. They are down to only 3 tanks versus 5, and there's just a whole lot of hit points on DingNA. They're just basically taking it to DingNA right now and hoping they can dig it out.
Absolutely. They're going down like flies. They know what they're doing. They have the overmatch. It is just Mega Minero and Orange left over, but it's not going to be for long. Mega Minero does find Mr. Gordon Freeman, but Super Destructo takes out Mega Minero. It is 1 tank left for Game Over, and this is not looking good. They're just going to surround him. Let's see if he can take a shot before he goes down, but that's it, ladies and gentlemen. Orange gets taken down. Super Destructo finishing off that last kill, and another amazing victory for DingNA.
You know, that really should have gone in Game Over's favor, if you ask me. They were a little bit slow getting into forward positions, and what DingNA did there is not something that we haven't seen before. It's fairly common to take a lot of lighter or faster tanks and just shove them down the 0 line like that. Some things they did well is they had enough tanks in positions to fire on Game Over when Game Over tried to poke out of the village and shoot DingNA in the 0 line. But I guess Game Over got a little bit scared, backed out when what they really needed to do was bring as many tanks as possible, recognize how many T-54 lightweights were there, and just drop the hammer on them as quickly as possible. In that instance, the aggression paid off for DingNA. They maintained composure even when they probably should have broken and got a little bit scared. And Game Over seems to be a little bit on its heels right now.
It seems DingNA, this aggressive attacking offense is working amazingly for them. Why would they change it up, if at all? Do you think we're going to continue to see this until it fails?
You know, I definitely don't think they're going to go for South Cap in the exact manner they did again, but I think they should seriously keep that pressure on. So far, Game Over has struggled more when the action has taken place very quickly. Now, it's worth mentioning they are playing from Brazil, and this is something that teams that kind of think about it, they keep in their playbook. When you're playing against a team that is further away from the server, they have a higher ping. And the faster you play, the faster you take it to them, the harder it's going to be for them to keep up, because you're making actions at like 30, 40, 50 MS, and they can be all the way up there at like 150 to 200. So by the time they even realize you fired, you're already backing away. It's an exploit. It's a huge advantage to have, but that is the lay of the land for Game Over, and they need to know how to mitigate that. So the longer they sit there, they being TBD, and allow Game Over to adjust what they're doing, the better Game Over is going to be. So take everything you got, make a quick play, and keep the pressure on, and maybe you'll get straight through them, and that would be it for Game Over for the qualifiers.
Yeah, now, in Game Over standpoint, being 2 games down now, we're going to see them. Do you think we're going to see them in the first games we watched? TBD and High Voltage sticking together, that main solid group. Would that work out against a team who's super aggressive, who might be able to flank you, or are we going to just see them maybe splitting out, playing it slower, making Ding come to them, as they know they are aggressive? So why would they just stay back? Why wouldn't they just stay back?
They could. They just need to make sure that they have the right angles when WGLNA does come to them. In that instance, they had them. They just didn't capitalize on it for one reason or another. And it's hard to say without actually being in their team speak, without actually being able to see how they're playing their tank specifically. But, I mean, honestly, we'll know exactly what WGLNA is trying to do and how Game Over is going to adjust as soon as we can take a look at the lineups.
All right, well, let's take a look at those lineups. David, walk us through what we got for both of these teams.
All right, for WGLNA, we have 2 IS-3s, 1 AMX 1393 T54 lightweights, and a T37. Over there for Game Over, we have two AMX 5100s, 3 IS-3s, a T54 lightweight, and a T37. So relatively or exactly the same lineups from last match. The WGLNA, again, going straight down the middle and trying to create a much faster fight than previously. They may actually go straight into the village itself, but I would be very surprised to see them do the exact same thing, and I would not be confident in it working twice. Yeah,
it looks like Gordon Freeman has been caught out here. He will be spotted. Is this having this information for Game Over on where WGLNA is going? Do you think this is going to give them a slight advantage in this next match?
They've already seen this strategy once. If they haven't figured out how to handle it yet, I would be surprised.
Oh no. Here we go again, guys. Ladies and gentlemen, we have the same, looks like the same exact thing from Game Over down here. Haas getting caught out. It's deja vu. Romstar takes him down. The long shots are beginning back in the village. Henrique Dante, though, gets Romstar in response. It's a 1-for-1. WGLNA and Game Over having a very similar looking battle from last time. What in the situation are they going to try to do differently, Game Over, so they don't lose?
What they need to do right now is identify the fact that there are only 2 tanks sitting in the EF line by themselves. They know it. They've seen them. Take everything you've got and dump them on them right now. Don't spend any time messing around with these guys in the 0 line. Exploit the fact that they're scared and they're worried about getting shot, and isolate something else. Stop playing the game that WGLNA wants you to.
Absolutely, but it looks like WGLNA just continues to find kills as they take down another member of Game Over. We have Valox and Super Destructor over in the city, a little low, but they're getting great fire in this town, and Game Over just kind of having to hunker down here behind these buildings. Lopez up there in the north by himself in that light tank. But we do see WGLNA, looks like they're going to be moving toward this, moving away from the cap, actually. It looks like we have like a little bit of a reset of a battle going on. What do you think is going through WGLNA's mind?
I'm not entirely sure WGLNA is entirely sure they know what they're doing right now. We have some tanks that were kind of moving in one direction and then doubled back. I think they've finally got it under control, actually. They're putting several tanks in cap and trying to force the remaining hit points and tanks from Game Over to come to them. WGLNA is up 1 gun, so this isn't necessarily a bad idea at all.
Absolutely, in 25 seconds on that cap point. They are putting the pressure that they need. Game Over is going to respond, but Freiberg looks like he's going straight into that down. He does stop, maybe a good position just to get some spots, but 16 seconds going down. WGLNA putting the pressure on. Game Over need to respond quick and try to get a reset. 10 seconds remaining. The question is, are they going to do it, or are they just going to let WGLNA take this cap from them? Down to 5 seconds now. Henrique Dante going in. Is he going to get that shot? As we have over in the corner Freiberg being a good distraction, but is it going to be enough? Henrique Dante needs to get a shot off. He gets the shot just in time, getting the reset. Orange finding Freiberg. Valoxa goes down. This is looking great for Game Over as WGLNA now, but WGLNA does respond from Roma, takes down Henrique Dante. 8 seconds on this cap. They're just trying to dodge left and right as Game Over surrounding them. They do not get it. The reset comes through from Game Over. Romstaker gets Lopez down, and now it is just it's a 4v3 though, still in favor of WGLNA getting a shot. Orange gets a great shot on Super Destro right there, but the cap has been reset. Walk me through to what we just saw in that moment. It looked like WGLNA was struggling, but they did come out on top.
That is one of the problems with relying on cap to win a game for you. It's great for pressure, but if you sit there and you let one of your tanks die while you expect to actually pull it out, as soon as you get reset one time, you've just given away a tank for nothing.
Absolutely.
He didn't stop them from resetting, and that's the most important part. If you're going to offer up a tank to protect your cap, your offensive cap, you better actually cap, or It's all for nothing.
Now it looks like the cap pressure is back on for WGLNA as they're taking the shots. They're missing though. We might have a third person on here. We're down to 10 seconds. Mega needs to get in there. Game Over needs to reset this cap, or it's going to be WGLNA's game again. They are moving in from the town. They're just going to look to get that shot off. It's 1 second. They do get the reset, but it goes down. Mega Minor takes Super Destructo down. It is a 3v3. The health is so close. The Dende going in. Gandorfo just trying to make some cause some damage, but he gets taken out himself by Mr. Gordon Freeman. But a response from Game Over. Orange takes the Dende down. It is a 2-on-2, but with the health in huge favor for DNA, who is maintaining on that cap, trying to force Game Over to come out. Rama Sacred and Orange down there, and we have a 2v2. We have a great shot though from Mega onto Gordon, which brings the health a lot closer. That was an amazing turn for Game Over.
Definitely. There is a lot of hit point advantage for DNA, or there was. However, the 2 tanks that are left for Game Over are IS-3s, and as you well know, Christian, you don't want to mess with an IS-3, especially in a light tank.
Rama Sacred's about to figure this out as he goes. He takes a shot, but he misses it. It's going to be a one-on-one. He tries to go around this corner, getting away from Orange, who's just going to he gets a nice shot off. It's just the 1v1 battle here behind the building. Mega takes down Mr. Gordon. It's a 2v1 in favor of Game Over, and if Orange goes down, it's going to be a 1v1. Rama Sacred really needs to take this for the team. It's just him left, though. And he does get the kill. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a 1v1, an IS-3 versus a T-54 lightweight. Rama Sacred looks like he needs to get out of there, but he doesn't. Mega Hero takes him down, finds him before he could escape. What a ridiculous turn for Game Over.
On the move.
On the move.
On the move. With an IS-3?
Woo.
Somebody better go to Vegas.
What a great shot.
The odds on that are not good. I'm sure right now Roma is just not happy about that whatsoever. However, just because a match comes down to a one-on-one does not mean that it is whoever lost the one-on-one's fault.
Sure. That
everything just happened. And that's something a lot of teams do. But the problem is, why was it a one-on-one? You obviously made some mistakes if it came down to one-on-one, especially when you have a light tank versus a heavy tank like an IS-3.
Yeah.
I definitely would not. Well, I don't know. Actually, I do like the T-54
You do like the T-54s. You might have been able to turn that around.
They're in my mind like the two jack of all trades of both setups, right? You have the IS-3, which you can use on almost any map, and then you have the T-54 lightweight, which is basically the same thing for light tanks. So, if that IS-3 had missed that shot, and that was a huge gamble to take. If he had missed that shot on the move, there is definitely enough time for that T-54 lightweight to shoot him even twice.
Wow.
And win that match. So that was a huge gamble. Fortunately, it paid off for Game Over.
Absolutely. I loved how the fact that now we're going out of this a 2-2. I mean, Ding did have that first match where it was, again, 6v7 if you're just tuning in. But we're going to leave this as an even match going into this new map up. What does this look like in kind of the minds of Ding and A, who've usually, like you're saying, 5-0'd or 5-1 their enemies? It looks like Game Over is proving to be quite the opponent.
Yeah, I mean, they had a little bit of a streak going on there. I think they were gaining momentum. And that one, that's one of those matches where it really depends on the team captain, whoever is their center of morale, which sometimes is a team captain, and sometimes it's whoever your star player is. To just remind everybody, they're like, oh, it's one game, and they barely pulled it out, right? So that's how I would phrase that message if I were Ding and A. For Game Over, it's pretty much the opposite, right? It's like, oh, they had us for a minute, but we're coming back, guys. That one was close, but this next one, we're really going to drop the hammer on this time.
Absolutely. Now, as I still want to focus on this aggressive style of Ding and A coming through into this new map that they choose. Being on defense as an aggressive team, how do you play that? Do you try to again force your opponent to on a certain cap, or do you wait back and make them make the first move?
To be an aggressive team on defense on this map, on mines, you can do it. You can do it one of two ways. You can either just take a lot of light tanks and rush the hill right off the bat.
Sure.
Or you can kind of sit back, see where your opponent goes, and then take everything you've got and try and hit one of those spread prongs. Now, if your opponent is being lazy on offense, they're not thinking defensively while they do it. It's kind of the dichotomy of an offense in this situation. You always have to be prepared for the enemy team just taking everything they got and shoving it right at you.
Sure.
Because a 5-on-4 or a 5-on-3 is not good. Even if you're supposed to be the attacker, you can be attacked at any point in time. So always be ready to defend yourself. But if they do take a bunch of tanks straight to the middle, straight to the hill, usually the lineup broadcasts that pretty significantly.
Yeah.
And then your opponent just doesn't go there.
Well, let's take a look at that lineup, David. We are into the fifth match, ladies and gentlemen. Ding and A versus Game Over. David, what do we got for tanks?
We have Ding and A rocking 2 IS-3s. The Waffle, again, I don't know how you predicted. I really wasn't expecting to see that so much today. 3 T-54 lightweights and a T-37. Meanwhile, in Game Over, we have an IS-3, a T-69, a Rue 251, 3 T-54 lightweights, and a 59-16. That is a lot of light tanks. That is a lot of hill presence. But it appears they're actually getting really meta with it and just not going hill.
Yeah, it looks like DingNA, which I would have actually predicted to be the aggressor to go and take that hill, are going around the side as we saw in the previous matchup. Gandorfo is going to be spotted as he runs over by himself, making this really aggressive push. This doesn't look good for him at all.
You know, this isn't that big of a deal. They've only risked one tank here. So they got intel, they know that there's at least 2 light tanks there, and they have the rest of their team sitting over by the cap, getting ready to pressure it. Orange Cataphract taking a ton of damage early.
Absolutely, which is going to be not a good situation for Game Over to be in, but Game Over is pressuring that cap. We're going to see how DingNA responds as they know they're going down. They have 2 members now putting that pressure on. We have some long shots over here. Gandorfo, though, coming up. He's finding Mr. Gordon Freeman popping in and out, taking these free shots as all the way down we have the Dendy. Rama though, taking down Orange all the way over on that side. This is a great advantage for DingNA. The cap goes right back down to 90 seconds. What do you do, David, in this situation, being a tank down on defense? Or on offense? This
actually is not that big of a deal for them. Yes, it is 1 tank, but they've taken a lot of damage off that waffle, which is going to be very important to them. It's more or less an equal HP trade, actually slightly in the advantage of Game Over, and now they have armored cover on the cap for Lopez and his 59-16. It's incredibly harder to reset him. Probably only an HE shell from that waffle can do it, unless they get something over there to reset him from a different angle. But right now, this is actually exactly what Game Over wanted. It's why they brought an IS-3 very clearly as far as I'm concerned. This is a very smart strategy.
Wow. Yeah, Freiburg taking tons of damage back in this corner from Game Over. Like you said, looks like they are the ones who are going to be controlling this map, but we get a nice shot from by onto M. Lopez, getting that reset on the cap. Velnoxy going down, but BR Gaming find Freiburg. DingNA losing a member of their team, and it's going to be a 6-on-6 with in the favor of Game Over, though still on that health. With that cap ticking down, Gandorfo, what is he going to do just backing back and forth on this as the 3 members sit by the lighthouse?
All Gandorfo is doing is trying to make sure he maintains intel on Mr. Gordon and Romstar, and that's exactly what he's doing. We saw 2 gigantic mistakes come out, 1 from each team. Lopez backing out just slightly and getting reset. That was huge. However, the waffle from DingNA came out a little bit too far. Now he's gone. He's off, which provides even better angles for Lopez. Big fight coming out here on the 1-2.
Absolutely. It looks like DingNA has just decided to overpower Gandorfo. Going to run straight toward this lighthouse. Going to circle this guy. Gandorfo just 1 shot away, but he does manage to take Romstar out before he goes down. And Roma Sacred going to finish off Gandorfo. We have a 3v2 over here for Game Over. DingNA getting extremely low. He's going to get rammed. BR Game Over takes down Roma Sacred with the ram. Then the Dendy in the 3v1 situation. The damage is coming on Mega, but he will go down as well. Game Over finding the kills after kills. Absolutely dominating DingNA. He is 1 shot, though. He's going to have to find cover. Mr. Gordon Freeman looking for the kill, but instead himself gets taken down. An amazing turnover from Game Over. Like you said, DingNA looks like they just went for the aggression, but it didn't work out for him.
They tried to make an aggressive counter push, but that is exactly what Game Over was waiting for. Game Over definitely bringing a very well thought out strategy in this instance, and now it is 5-on-2. Game Over just needs to put at least 1 tank on cap, get everybody else around. Looks like they're going to try and bracket these 2 remaining heavy tanks from the top and the bottom of the 4-5 line. It's classic. It's exactly what you do. They can't really push on Heish, whatever you want to call him there in the T69, as it'll rip out 4 shots and kill, very likely, either one of those tanks. This is not a pretty situation for DingNA whatsoever.
No, not at all, and it's going to be absolutely amazing if they can come back, but I'm not sure what their win condition is as Super takes 246 points of damage. We have Heish coming in right behind him, pushing up on the hill aggressively, but Big Game Over finds Veloxa, and now it's just 1 tank remaining for Ding. Heish and Super Destructo just going to hash it out. Damage going back and forth there, 1 shots away. Super might go down. He gets a shell gets bounced there. No damage on for Game Over, but I'm not sure what Ding can do in this situation. Super just trying to take down shots. Gets a nice chunk on Lopez, but himself gets taken out, and that will do it. Game Over, finding the victory there on Mines.
Beautiful strategy.
Yeah.
Beautiful strategy. At first, I was a little bit hesitant about the IS-3. It's not a tank I typically would like to bring on Mines, but using it as cover is classic. Teams have been doing it forever, typically with actually slightly smaller tanks than what we saw at that 59-16, but that was beautiful. If DingNA had done a little bit better with that waffle, protected him a little bit better, then maybe they would have stood a chance of resetting that and not having to commit so many tanks at it. However, that's the problem with the waffle itself. That is why I'm not a gigantic fan of it on most maps. You know where it is. A very experienced team knows where it can be, and it usually can only be in like one of 3 spots per map. And as soon as it fires, you know where it is.
Sure.
And that thing is paper-thin armor.
Yeah.
Like back when we were running T1 Cunninghams,
It's a waffle.
we could rip it up with a T1 Cunningham. It's that how thin. It's like we're talking like 10 millimeters in certain areas. So it just gets annihilated. Too much of it shows when it tries to fire, and I think that is DingNA's biggest problem with that strategy they were just running. Replace the waffle with something better, probably 5100. I mean, it puts out a lot of damage before it has to reload. Or maybe bring a little bit stronger of a lineup and go to the hill. But again, overall beautiful strategy from Game Over.
Yeah.
Bringing the light tanks like that and then not going hill is another somewhat classic move, because your opponent sees it and they're like, oh, look at all those light tanks, they're going hill. So your opponent tries to spread out, and usually they do it somewhat lackadaisically. Sometimes you can just catch a tank who's driving to his position and he thinks there's nobody who's going to be there. He's like,
Sure.
all 5 of those lights are going to the top of the hill. I'm going to go set up in the 1-2, and on his way there, he just gets popped. Fortunately for DingNA, they didn't lose in that situation, but unfortunately for DingNA, Game Over took much further land. They got a much better foothold than Ding expected them to in that instance. Beautiful.
Absolutely. Well, we're going to get right into our next battle. We have Game Over versus DingNA. Game is up 3-2. We're going to go ahead and see what the lineups are. David, why don't you walk us through that?
DingNA bringing 2 IS-3s. They're back with the waffle. We'll see if they can do it a little bit better this time. 3 T-54 lightweights and a T-37. While Gandorfo and his Game Over crew are running 2 IS-3s this time. A Ru 251, 3 T-54 lightweights and 59-16. I'm thinking we're going to see a different strategy out of them this time. Hopefully they'll take the hill.
Now we do see DingNA, as you see, going out along the sides, going to go ahead and get the setup for the defense. But as you predicted, Game Over absolutely taking this hill, rushing straight in. What do you think they're going to try to accomplish on here? Are they going to just push down, get good vision, and maybe take the city cap, knowing no one's there?
I think once you get control of the hill, it's really just sort of a game where you feel out where your opponent is. They will definitely be much more likely to take the other cap. It's kind of predictable meta, right? You go one way and then you go the other. I like the fact that they went hill second in their second match instead of the first one, because there was a chance that DingNA would think, oh, look at them, they're not going to take the hill either time. Put some tanks on there and then Game Over could get a solid grab. So they took as many light tanks as they had to that center up until Game Over realized they weren't being contested for that spot. And now they've shifted them over in the east, and it looks like you are correct. They are getting set up to try an eastern cap with most of DingNA prep for the west. This is going to be messy for DingNA to try and defend this.
Now, we have seen in the previous games how DingNA, as the aggressive team, when coming against Game Over, have been able to sometimes get just those better brawls happening. But if Game Over can take this cap and force DingNA with that waffle, how does having a waffle on the side of an aggressive team work out for you when you're the one who has to move to position?
It doesn't. Waffle and aggressive are not really synonymous. There are very rare situations, I would say, where perhaps you could cover an aggressive move of light tanks with a waffle. But as I said before, typically when a waffle fires, the enemy team knows where it is. They can let blind fire rip into that area, and they usually take it out. It seems as though Game Over is switching away from that eastern cap that they were trying to do, maybe spreading a little bit more feelers out and trying to deduce where DingNA is. So far, not a whole lot of intel being given up by DingNA, but that in itself on this map is actually intel. Typically when you can't see your opponent on mines and they're in the south, they're laid out the way DingNA is, biased to the west.
Sure.
Otherwise, they're usually easy to see, or it's just strategically not a good idea for them to be there. And that's always in the back of your mind. It's like, well, I'm pretty sure there's nobody in the east. However, if they're being crazy and they've got 5 guys stacked behind that building, it's kind of hard for us to see it. And if we put too much there, if we commit there without really making sure that is true, it's very easy to get gibbed, lose like 4 tanks almost instantaneously.
Absolutely. And we do see Game Over. Actually, it looks like they're switching it up and going for the same cap as last time, which is not going to be okay for them because DingNA is set up. This might be an amazing turnover for them. Big game running right into Mr. Gordon Freeman, taking some damage, but now he's going to be in that same spot as he was last time, just down there by himself for Game Over. Looks like the setup is going to be about the same. Mr. Gordon Freeman taking tons of damage trying to find cover here. It looks like we're going to go for that repeat of our last game.
It is similar. I wouldn't say it's exactly the same. Actually, now that Gandorfo is coming down, it is perhaps becoming exactly the same. Maybe they're banking on the fact that WGLNA hasn't found a solution to, or sorry, maybe they're banking on the possibility, certainly not a fact. We've seen WGLNA pull some magic out so far. So I think Game Over assumes that they haven't had an answer for it. It is a very difficult answer to come up with, honestly. However, if WGLNA just shoves in the 5 line very quickly in response to this, they can actually clear out that hill presence and wrap around Game Over. Game Over taking way too much damage to get their T-54 lightweight there to H1.
Absolutely, and it does seem Game Over is going to start that cap, put that pressure on for WGLNA to respond. We have some shots going out, nothing connecting. Gandorf takes a little bit, 261 of damage, which is going to be a slight reset on that cap, but it's back to 40 seconds. Now, WGLNA, knowing that this is going to be about a similar strat that Game Over had last time, how do you think they're going to go about this differently?
So far what I'm seeing is WGLNA has moved their waffle out from where it was before. However, it's going to be hard for him to get another angle without getting lit. So really, they are already making some strong plays. They're forcing people out of the mid, and they're using that waffle to support that instead of firing on cap like they did before. That is actually a vast improvement. This T-54 can do his work, resetting everybody on cap, and maybe if they can sneak this waffle up to the side, they can nuke everything on cap, and that would put WGLNA in a great position to win.
But it looks like you're saying, Gandorf taking tons of damage. WGLNA doing an awesome amount of damage on these two players trying to take the cap down. They need to get out of there. They're just staying, though. They're one shot away each. There's some crossfire happening over here, but it looks like if they're one more shot, they're going to be down. And there goes Gandorfo with just Emma Lopez just hopefully being able to use him as a shield. But I'm not sure how he's going to weather in the situation being surrounded by WGLNA like this.
Where he is right now, this Borsig, this waffle, as we've been calling it, can theoretically get a shot on it. However, WGLNA has 76 seconds before they really need to do anything. WGLNA actually losing T-37, that's not a huge deal to them, but general, pretty obvious. You want to keep as many tanks alive as you can.
Absolutely. Now Emma Lopez still maintaining on this cap. We have BR Game Over by Romstar there. What is the significance of his position as he kind of is just a little nuisance to WGLNA this time?
You're talking about BR Game Over there, up against H1. Again, he is just there to keep intelligence on that area. That area is very deadly for anyone trying to make a move. A lot of action going on.
Absolutely. We have another tank be taken down for Game Over. WGLNA taking on Romstar, taking on Emma Lopez as well. They're just going to try to overmatch on this hill, running down. The cap pressure is off for Game Over. WGLNA now being in a good position to just kind of sit back. Freiburg takes some damage. A bounce shot onto Heisch for Super Destructo, but that one absolutely connects. Veloxa trying to back off, not taking too much damage as he gets some free damage on Game Over. WGLNA in a good position, but over here against this side, we do have Romstar finding BR Game Over, and now it's Megamix versus Romstar and the Dendi. 2 tanks versus 1. The health in favor over here of Game Over, but the tank matchup and Rama Sacred, Megaman finds the Dendi. Absolutely amazing. The one shot going through. I was sure he was a little bit more. Up on the hill, we have Heisch and Henrique almost low, and as I say it, Henrique does go down. Freiburg finds him, and Veloxa also finds Heisch. This is now a 5v1 in favor of WGLNA, and they have absolutely cleaned up Game Over here on this match.
And there's only 3 seconds left. This defense is going to WGLNA. A fantastic job adjusting to what they saw last time. They took the mistakes that they made, talked about them clearly after the match.
Yeah.
Figured out a better solution, moved that waffle out where it was so easy to die, replaced it with a tank that's a little bit more nimble on that corner, the T-54, and that was really all they needed to do. A much better push in the middle. They wiped out a lot of Game Over's rear flanking positions and just left the people who were relatively unimportant to be out of the battle. You put 2 people on cap like that, and while they are adding pressure, if you ignore them while you fight other stuff, they can't really join the fight because they're busy. They're on cap, and they're already in a crossfire. So it's very easily isolated for WGLNA, and quite frankly, a great job at adapting to what they saw in the match before.
Absolutely. And I don't want to talk too much about things that didn't happen, but in the beginning of that match, we saw Game Over looking as if they had WGLNA in a great position. WGLNA all spread out over on the opposite side. They looked like they were going to take that town, force that cap. What do you think was the reason they didn't? Why do you think they didn't commit to that and decide to go back to what happened first? Was it maybe because they were safe, that worked for them before, or
unless there was something that happened there that I didn't see, they just psych themselves out of it. Either that, or they're just not particularly comfortable. They think there's some sort of strategic flaw with the Eastern cap there. However, if they had done virtually the same thing that they did in the West, using an IS-3 to cover the 59-16, that actually probably would have been a better strategy than what they had going on in the West. In the West, WGLNA is already set up, and they know that.
Sure.
They'd had enough scouting to figure that out for certain. So they can put more tanks in the mid. They, being Game Over in this instance, can put more tanks in the mid line, put the same pressure on in the east, and then as all those tanks from WGLNA have to shift over, pelt them the whole way across. And then it doesn't even matter. If they do get to the cap and reset it, the tanks that are getting there are like 20-30%. You just pick them off, and you're like, cap or kill doesn't really matter at this point. A win's a win. Take what you can get.
That does sound like it would be an ideal situation for any team facing off to battle their way into out of a qualifier. But now we're gonna see Game Over on the defense this time with the aggressive team of WGLNA on the offense. How do you think? Do you think we'll see a waffle come out again for WGLNA? I hope we'll see a waffle.
Honestly, I hope not. I don't think a waffle is particularly great on offense, but like I said before, almost any strategy is viable provided you run it in the right way and your team does it together. So really for me, it was always trying about, as our team would discuss things, we tried to find what everybody was comfortable with, and that's what we would run. Because while you could do this or that, there was one thing that everybody was happy with, and if everybody's happy with it, that's typically the best option for you.
Absolutely. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we're back into our 7th match, WGLNA versus Game Over. David, why don't you take us through those lineups?
WGLNA is running one IS-3, a T-32, a RU-251, and 3 T-54 lightweights and 1 T-37. Meanwhile, Game Over, a T-32, 1 RU-251, 4 T-54 lightweights, and a T-37. Let's get to the mid quickly, because I guarantee you Game Over is taking that away.
Absolutely, as we do see Game Over just rushing that way. But, it looks like they've actually maybe stopped. They're just waiting at the base of the hill. They didn't commit fully. How is this going to play out? The fact that they got so many light tanks and didn't take the hill.
Okay, so this is, again, a pretty standard move. What they're actually trying to do is make sure they can get in position early so that anything WGLNA sends to hill gets absolutely lit up on the way up. With that many tanks, that quickly, you can kill the first tank. We got one trying to cross right now, but Game Over just left that position.
Oh, man.
Had they waited a little bit longer, they might have been able to pick it up, but that was a great delayed push by WGLNA.
Oh.
That is how you handle it. If you know somebody's going to do that, you wait until they're not paying as close of attention as they are right in the beginning, and then you go.
It seems as if Game Over psyched themselves out, just like in that last matchup. They all right, well, I guess we might be getting flanked somewhere else. Let's move our positions. And right then, WGLNA had an amazing response in taking that hill. So now with WGLNA in control of this hill on defense, what type of advantage is this for a team on top with good vision on both caps?
Like you said, there is great vision in general. They can see almost any position that Game Over could be in, or they can spot it or gain intelligence on it through deduction. Either way, when you're on top, you control the defense more than the defense controls itself. And if you're smart and if you know how to do it correctly, you can figure out almost everywhere that defense could possibly be. So from there, it just depends on how good you are at making tactical decisions. It looks like WGLNA is getting ready to move onto the western cap. They've drawn a lot of tanks from Game Over underneath that hill directly. Game Over is not necessarily running a lineup that is good for what they're trying to do here. However, one big advantage of what Game Over is doing is as soon as they see an isolated tank, they can take all those light tanks, dive on it, and clean it up. So that may be what we're going to see here in WGLNA in the 4-5 line momentarily.
Absolutely, a few shots coming at orange there. No damage, not too much damage being taken. But that does give Game Over maybe a good idea of where WGLNA is coming from. As you said, we have them set up over here by the western cap, almost as what Game Over won on the first time. Gandorfo just by himself, though. We normally saw a couple tanks over there by them. What does WGLNA now have to do? Well, actually, what does Game Over have to do? The fact that WGLNA is on defense, they don't have to do much. What is Game Over going to have to do to start a push here or to start putting pressure somewhere on the map?
Well, with Game Over on defense, they basically just have to wait for WGLNA. I think you were asking what WGLNA has to do in order to put pressure on Game Over. It is hard to keep track of. Trust me, I understand. There is at least one instance in pro play where I forgot what I was supposed to be doing. I was like, wait, are we attacking or is this the wrong cap? Oh, I'm sorry, guys. It's a good thing the rest of you are on track because I got lost. Really, DNA's best play is to get proper intelligence on where Gandorfo is down there at H1. And if they did that, they would know that Game Over is not in position to support him. They should put multiple light tanks on there and take it out as quickly as possible. But for as long as they're dilly-dallying here, Game Over is beginning an amazing flank, and they're going to come around and absolutely rip up these guys in the 4-5 like we were talking about earlier. And that is not a good situation for DNA whatsoever.
Yeah, we are seeing this push coming around right here. Looks like these 4 tanks are going to take Rama Sacred, who is not prepared for what's about to happen to him. As they run up, they line up the shots. A lot of damage is coming out of him on the hill. He's all by himself. Valoxa just responding to what's going on, turning his turret around, but it's going to be too late. We have DNA taking some serious damage. Rama Sacred goes down, and now Valoxa is going to get surrounded here. Looks like DNA is going to try to go ahead and force and help his teammate out, but it might be too late as Valoxa goes down. This is an amazing turnaround for Game Over, who looks like they are absolutely in the driver's seats of this match. Super Destructor now down. They're all in the open. Their fires coming from all ends. The Dende taking some good amount of damage. Orange going to go, picks up Freiberg, but it's not going to be enough. The Dende one shot away. Heiss going to go ahead and come down, taking the shots, picks him up. Drac Hero finds the Dende. So much damage. There's this absolute battle, a bloodbath coming out for both teams. DNA versus Game Over. Absolute destruction on both these fronts, but Game Over with, as you can see, more blues than reds, just picking it off. One more tank to go, and that's going to do it. Game Over. Find that victory against DNA. Seesaw back and forth. David, walk me through what we saw in that match. DNA looked like they had the opening. They took the hill, and yet Game Over found that flank and absolutely annihilated them.
I absolutely love what I just saw, Christian. I love it so much. So, typical defense, you run a lot of heavy hit points, you camp, but if a team is very good, or you make a single mistake on offense, and a defense is running light tanks like that, they can find whatever mistake you made, dive on it immediately. I love it when it's faster. I love it when it's aggressive.
Sure.
Thank you, Game Over, for that. Keep it up. Do me proud. I really hope we see more of that as this tournament goes on, because that is where the meta should be. That's what happens a lot in international play. A certain amount of heavy tanks is always a good idea, but it's sort of like, and I don't want to be too rude here, but it's almost like training wheels. It's like, well, if we make a couple mistakes, we got a couple extra hit points. But when you come across a team that plays light tanks extremely well and they make all their calls correctly, those light tanks outflex you, and positioning is everything in almost any video game, but definitely this one. Get concave, rip people up, isolate them, and light tanks can take out heavy tanks on most maps, but not all of them.
Yeah, that like you said, that was fascinating to see the fast pace and the absolute precision of those 4 tanks from Game Over just coming around and taking DNA. Now knowing this, we're going to be on the same sides. Does DNA have to maybe predict this might happen again? It's worked for Game Over once. Are they going to bring the same thing twice? Where does the mind games come into play?
So I see really 2 clear options for DNA. Maybe 3. So they can go super heavy and hope that Game Over runs light again. And then just shove at them and hope Game Over makes a mistake, because light tank play is vulnerable to mistakes, extremely fragile, which is why a lot of teams don't like doing it. They could run basically what they just did and try to improve on the mistakes they made, which so far from what I've seen is much more likely to be their tactic, their style. Or they could go equally light and just have the first actual hill battle we've seen so far. Maybe try some sort of gimmick right off the bat, like a hard flank around the 8-9, something. But we will see very shortly, Christian.
We will see actually right now, ladies and gentlemen. We're into the next battle. DNA versus Game Over. Game Over just needs one more win to take it. David, what do we got for lineups?
From DNA, we have 1 T-32, 1 Route 251, 4 T-54 lightweights, and a T-37. And quite frankly, the exact same lineup for Game Over. DNA coming at them, bringing the exact same tanks. I'm really interested to see where they go with this. Come on, hill fight.
Now, as you said, it looks like we do have both the teams coming at this hill. Although Game Over is sending some guys going to go into this this lower land down here. Mr. Gordon Freeman, a little ahead of his team. No, but looks like DNA, they're heading to the town. They're not going to do this hill fight.
This is a very smart move. Game Over did this last time. They sat in the middle. DNA knows it. DNA is going to come around, try and flank them while they're caught in the open like this. This is a much smarter move than what I wanted them to do, which is have both teams run in the middle and duke it out, which realistically, while it's the most entertaining for me, was not the most intelligent play in this situation. WGLNA getting in behind him.
Absolutely does seem like WGLNA is discovered, though. Game Over is going to start responding to this. Maybe they have found a little earlier than they would like. Romsaker taking some good amount of damage, and Heiss also damaged. But Mr. Gordon Freeman up there on the hill with them. He might be in an overmatch situation himself. Veloxa not looking like he's in a good position, as Game Over can just run around this hill and take him down. The 4v2 over here. Mr. Gordon Freeman trying to help his teammate out, doing as much damage as possible. He's going to bail over the side there. BR Game finds the first kill. Veloxa goes down for WGLNA. Now Drac Hero going to make sure that Mr. Gordon can't go down the way he wanted to. Mr. Gordon Freeman getting extremely low. But over here we have WGLNA trying to make a response of their own as they try to overpower Orange. We have the guy, Drac Hero takes down Mr. Gordon Freeman. It is an amazing fight, a little in favor of Game Over. But WGLNA looks like they're going to go down, and Super Destructo takes down Orange. A great pickup for WGLNA as Game Over is going to go ahead and rush down this hill. Super Destructo is the one pointing out for them. And Drac Hero, though, just pick him out from the back. Romastar have to look both directions. This is not the best situation for WGLNA to be in.
WGLNA, that was both teams did the exact same thing there. They recognized that certain tanks had been isolated. They dove, took out the T-32s, and now WGLNA is unfortunately just not in superior position, and they're trying to take out this 251 and turn around.
They do, and they're the ones who are going to make the grid. But WGLNA finding 2 kills as Romstar picks up Drac Hero. Rumsaker not going to be good. 3 kills for WGLNA. Henrique does find Rom, but it's not looking actually great for Game Over. WGLNA finding the advantage. Romstar, Freiburg takes down Gandorfo, and WGLNA takes down Henrique Dante. 1 tank remained for Game Over. WGLNA, what a turnaround. It's just going to be one more shot. They might go for the ram here. Nope, Super Destructo finds BR. WGLNA turned it on and turned it around just like that.
I love it. There's not a lot to say aside from that was just light tank play.
Wow.
Trading, trying to find the correct isolations. It looked for a second like WGLNA.
We're gonna call you.
I want to call him WGLNA so bad. It looked like WGLNA was in a bad spot, but fortunately for them, that Rue 251 all the way in the back really made up the difference by plinking Game Over as they came around that bottom, trying to make sure that they could isolate those T-54 lightweights while they were there. Unfortunately for Game Over, they were doing something similar, isolated, but their Rue 251 in the north had nowhere to go. WGLNA made a great call, dove on it, and then from there, really, position is a lot, the calls that were made is a lot, but I would not be surprised if we combed over every single shot of that replay, if that came down to simply who shot better.
Oh, and it was, like you said, it was amazing to see WGLNA just turn it on at the end, where they decided to go ahead and collapse on that overmatch, push them back where they had it. The beginning, it seemed as if we were going to have these kind of round-robin sort of events, but like you said, WGLNA predicting what Game Over was going to do. They started the same way. They called that out. How are we going to see this change, this next matchup, coming from Game Over?
I'm not sure if Game Over is going to change or if they're just going to rally and say that, we made some mistakes, obviously. Just looking over their numbers right there, that's why I was kind of leaning in. One of their players shot 6 times and only hit 1 of them. That's a big problem.
Ooh.
That's a big problem. That right there could have been the match. And none of them shot particularly well, but as you're driving around in these T-54s, you just kind of let shots fly.
Sure.
When you're in an actual close-up fight, that's when it matters. But if you can just send one while you're on the way somewhere, why not, right? You reload pretty quickly, so it doesn't really matter. What I like the most here is I like WGLNA's attitude. This is something that my team and I used to do a lot, and it was like, if another team wanted to run our lineup, that was just exciting to us. Sometimes we would bring their lineup because it was like, all right, we're confident that we're better than them.
Sure.
So let's take away all the strategic stuff, turn it into micro calls and actual gameplay, and just see who gets it done. As long as you have faith in who you are, or I'm sorry, in your players and that they're better, then it's not a big risk.
Sure. Now going into this this 9th and final battle, it's the tiebreaker. It's 4-4, WGLNA, and Game Over. The pressure is on here. This is the final match. This is the match that's going to decide who leaves and who stays for this Gold League Season 6. What is going through these teams' minds right now? It's down to the wire.
The pressure does not get any greater than this, Christian. 4-4, going to the final map, steps. It looks like WGLNA is going to be defending. That is not a good situation for Game Over. This is, after my review, This, to me, looked like the easiest map to defend out of everything. So the way that the map picking was done here did not go in the favor for Game Over. They probably should have tried to orchestrate this so it was a different map. What I'm happy about, though, is that this is going to be largely a light tank-driven map.
Hey!
And as we all already know, I love light tanks. I love faster, aggressive play. I don't really want to see T-32s just sit there and kind of snipe at each other for a minute. Although that can be interesting in its own right. That is not the best thing to do on this map right now, and I'm extremely intrigued to see what DGLNA brings. As you've been mentioning, they're aggressive, they're dynamic, and quite frankly, they're letting me know that I should have known who they are. They're like, oh, you say you didn't know any of us.
Yeah.
But actually, I would not be surprised whatsoever if they're coming out of a lot of Clan Wars experience, perhaps Silver League experience. I haven't been around so much the last season, so it's very likely that they came through Silver League, probably attempted qualifiers or got some sort of experience here. You know what? Now that I think about it, I would bet money they've been practicing against either a team like High Voltage or somebody who's already in the Gold League.
Okay.
Because this is refined. They know what they're doing. This isn't a team who just walked in here and were like, let's give it a shot. 754. How hard could it be, right?
Yeah, they definitely know what they're doing. They're attacking it with such precision. But again, Game Over on that same standpoint. Responding properly, like they're not letting DGLNA 5-0 them, 5-0 them. It's been back and forth, 4-4. Well, ladies and gentlemen, this is it. We're into the tiebreaker, the final match, DGLNA versus Game Over. David, what do we got for tanks?
DGLNA rocking a T-32, a Ru 251, 4 T-54 lightweights, and a T-37. It worked last match. Why not bring it back? Game Over going even more aggressive, smart play, not bringing the T-32. Thank you for that. Ru 251, 5 T-54 lightweights, and a T-37. This is going to be interesting. It's going to be a lot of flexing, a lot of establishing, pivoting around that T-32 for a DGLNA, and this is in DGLNA's favor in many ways right now. However, Game Over has a lot of experience on this map, and this can be a hard one to play. It's very easy to overcommit on defense, or even though you have superior position, make a mistake that offers up your tanks. And if Game Over keeps together and they hit their shots and they focus fire a tank, they can run away and snowball on this map really fast.
Now, as you said, it seems as if Freiburg actually getting tracked right there as he goes off a little too aggressive. Game Over looks like they're going to really collapse on this. They know he's there. They've spotted him, and they know that they have the overmatch. This is not looking good for him at all. Freiburg takes a serious amount of damage. Game Over absolutely dominating him, taking him out of game so quickly into the match. How does this fare for DGLNA in this situation?
They're completely out of position. They basically just lost a tank for nothing. Faring is not something they are doing right now. Game Over needs to pull out of this situation, regroup, and just re-engage on this map, and essentially a 6-on-7 or a 7-on-6, depending on which side you're looking for. They're going to take a little bit of damage from Romstar on their way out, but this was a smart play on Game Over. They just went all out. Fortunately, picked up a tank. It's not unpredictable. A lot of scouting happens in that manner, and now it's just a matter of finding where DGLNA is stashing the rest of their tanks and doing the same thing all over again. Everybody on one target, pull out, rinse, repeat until you have such a significant advantage it just doesn't matter anymore. This T-32 from Veloxa and DGLNA side is in a very precarious position, but the biggest problem here for DGLNA is Mr. Gordon Freeman in his T-37 is there. Out in the open, he has very little support aside from his T-32.
He does have to get around that rock, which is exactly what Game Over wanted. They take him down without hesitation. Mr. Gordon Freeman going down so quickly. Gandorfo just manipulating that rock so well and having his enemy go out in the open where all the teammates are waiting. Now as Gandorfo goes around, looks like we have 2 tanks responding from DGLNA, 3 possibly going to go stop him out, but they are down 2 tanks. On the side of DGLNA. How is this? What do they do on defense? Do they regroup? Do they find out where they need to go? Or is it just going to be Game Over kind of slowly just using this advantage?
They need to find something to jump on and do it quickly. This is not a map where they can sit around and whittle people down and try and get an advantage. You have to get isolation. You have to take your shots, get behind a hill. Game Over jumping on DGLNA right now.
Absolutely. There's a lot of battle going on. Gandorfo taken down quite low, but we have a major battle fight in the middle. Megamind finds the Dende, but DGLNA responds by finding Gandorfo. Romstal getting absolutely dominated. The crossfire from Game Over is superb as they just use this overmatch to their potential. Now it's going to be Veloxa getting absolutely dominated by Orange and Drac Hero there. We've got big Game Over. Heich finding Rom Sacred. It's a 2v5. Super Destructor does take out Men WGLNA, but Drag Hero just chasing Super Destructo. They want to end it. Game Over want this so badly, and it looks like they're going to get it. Heist coming in, big game with the ram, takes him down, but the response from Super Destructo, Veloxa, the only tank remaining on the side of WGLNA. Game over. Looks like they're absolutely about to end this game with this victory. Veloxa, nothing he can do, and he knows it. He goes down. Game over. The victors, the 5-4 on the attacking side. That did not go how we thought it would go at all.
Tiebreakers are one of the most stressful situations you can ever be in. That was fantastic play by Game Over. Some serious mistakes on WGLNA's part. I'm not sure they practiced this map as much as they practiced other ones. They made they offered up 2 picks before action even took place, and that T-32 was not enough hit points to make up the difference.
Yeah, and as you said, that early pickoff for WGLNA, losing that tank so early really makes it tough. It looks like they were back in that starting situation, the 6v7, right off the bat, and Game Over absolutely had the confidence. They had the plays. Mr. Gandorfo. I always want to say Gandalf. When Gandorfo just whittling around that rock, opening the team, took that advantage. Congratulations to Game Over. That entire match, back and forth, but what an amazing game.
I think you actually called him Ganondorf earlier, which was also fantastic. In Mega Mahiro, I guarantee you Mega's going to love that.
Oh, great.
And actually on that Ruinberg map, he was a hero. Letting that shot fly and picking it up, tying everything up. Fantastic play. Let's not hesitate. Congratulations to Game Over. 3rd guaranteed spot in the league today. Now it's just to see where everybody ranks against each other. We're deciding the seeds 10 through 11 for the actual WGLNA. Christian, welcome to Tanks.
Woohoo! This is absolutely fast-paced, fun, and I can't wait to see what comes of this Gold League. Ladies and gentlemen, we will be right back with match number 3 after this. Don't go anywhere.